The wind screamed across the white land. Snowflakes flew like sharp needles in the freezing air. The ground was covered in endless snow, white as far as the eyes could see, and in the middle of it walked a small figure. She was no taller than a child, maybe 6 years old in human terms. Her skin was pale purple and her eyes glowed light blue. Her long ears drooped with exhaustion, and her hands were wrapped tightly around her chest. She wore a torn silver cloak that flapped helplessly in the storm. She was lost. Her name was Rayleigh, a tiny alien girl from a far-off planet. Her transport ship had crashed 2 days ago. Everyone else was gone. Only she had crawled out of the wreckage and wandered into the snowfields. She didn't know where to go. She didn't know who to trust. She didn't even know if she would live till the next day. Each step was heavy. Her feet wrapped in soft cloth sank deep into the snow. She hadn't eaten in almost 2 days. Her lips were cracked. Her small face was red from the cold. Still she walked. Then she heard it. A hiss. She stopped. Her ears twitched. Her eyes scanned the white mist around her. At first, she saw nothing. But then, a thin, long trail in the snow moved. It was fast, silent, and it circled around her. Her breath froze in her throat. It was the snow snake, a deadly predator of this ice planet. Long as a man, pure white, with fangs that could freeze blood in seconds. Its body blended perfectly with the snow. No one ever saw it coming, until it was too late. Rayleigh's heart raced. She knew this creature. Her people feared it. She dropped to her knees and began to crawl toward a rocky hill nearby. She needed shelter, any shelter. The snow snake moved faster. Its glowing silver eyes stayed on her. It slithered like a ghost, making no sound. Rayleigh reached the rocks. Behind them was a small dip in the ground, a shallow cave, just enough to hide a body. She crawled in and held her breath. Outside, the snow fell quietly again. The snake circled the entrance once, then vanished into the wind like it was never there. Rayleigh curled into a ball. Her body shivered. She was cold, hungry, and scared. Her eyes slowly closed. Far away on a high snowy ridge, a human man watched her through his visor. He wore a heavy survival suit, armor patched and dusty, and his backpack hummed with low power. He was a traveler, a mechanic once, now just a man walking alone in a dying galaxy. He had seen the crash 2 nights ago on his scanner, but by the time he arrived, the ship was already buried in snow and fire. No life signs, or so he thought. But now, the small heat signal on his screen blinked again. Tiny, fading, moving. He zoomed in and saw her, a little alien girl, alone in the storm. "Damn," he whispered. "She's still alive." He checked his rifle and slung it on his back. Then he adjusted his thermal gear and started moving toward her. The snow snake passed through his scope once. He paused. He knew what it was, and he knew it never left its prey alive. "She won't last long," he muttered. He moved faster. Back in the cave, Rayleigh couldn't sleep. Her small body hurt. The wind howled outside, and the snow snake's shadow still haunted her mind. She whispered to herself in her native language, repeating a soft lullaby her mother once sang. Just then, a red light blinked outside. She gasped. A shape appeared in the snow, tall, 2 legs, holding something. She backed into the corner of the cave. The figure stepped forward slowly and knelt. A warm voice spoke. "Hey, easy. I'm not here to hurt you." She didn't understand the words, but the tone. It wasn't angry. It wasn't cold. The human took off his glove and reached into his pocket. He pulled out a protein bar, unwrapped it, and placed it on the ground. She stared at it. He smiled gently, then backed away. Rayleigh sniffed the air. Her stomach growled. She crawled forward, picked up the bar, and took a bite. Her eyes widened. Warmth, food. Her hands shook as she ate. The man watched quietly, then said to himself, "Hang on, little one. You're not dying today." The cave was quiet. Only the sound of Rayleigh's slow breathing filled the cold air. She had finished the food bar and was now lying curled in a corner, wrapped in the human's thick jacket. Her skin had regained a little color, and her breathing had steadied. But her eyes, they never fully closed. Fear still lived in them. The human, named Logan, sat outside the cave, watching the snow drift. His thermal scanner rested on his lap, and his pulse rifle leaned beside him. He didn't want to scare the child inside with too many questions. She was clearly not from any nearby colony. Her species wasn't even in his databanks. But something else worried him more, that snow snake. He had seen it before, long ago. It wasn't just an animal. It was a hunter, smart, fast, and patient, and it never gave up once it chose its target. Suddenly, the snow behind the cave shifted, not from the wind, from weight. Logan stood instantly, his visor lighting up in red. He didn't say anything. He just raised his weapon, then he heard it. Shh. The sound wasn't loud, but it was deep, dry, like snow being scraped slowly by fangs. Inside, Rayleigh sat up straight. Her ears twitched, her wide eyes locked on the shadow crawling across the cave ceiling. The snake had come in another way, through a crack in the back wall. It slithered silently, its body pressing against the stone, its mouth open slightly, revealing frost-covered fangs. It could smell her warmth, her breath. She didn't scream. She was too trained for that. Her people taught children how to die with honor, so she closed her eyes and whispered her goodbye words, but the strike never came. Because at that exact moment, bzzzt, crack. A blue bolt of energy tore through the back of the cave, hitting the wall just inches from the snake's head. Logan stormed in, rifle smoking. His face was hard, focused. He didn't shoot to kill yet, he wanted to drive it out. The snake hissed violently and dropped down, circling him. Rayleigh stared in shock. The man didn't run. He didn't even step back. Instead, he moved between her and the snake. Logan's voice was calm. "Come on, you cold-blooded freak. You want something warm? Try me." The snow snake lunged, but Logan had already pulled a small grenade from his belt and tossed it under its belly. Thumph! It was a heat burst. A sudden wave of fire filled the air, not enough to burn, but enough to overload the snake's cold-sensitive nerves. It shrieked, high and sharp, and darted back through the crack, vanishing like a ghost. Silence returned. Rayleigh stared at Logan. His jacket was singed. His arm was bleeding from the snake's tail swipe, but he didn't complain. He walked to her slowly, sat on the ground, and took out a med pack. He winced as he cleaned the wound. Only then did Rayleigh crawl toward him. She didn't say anything. She just placed her tiny hand on his injured arm and held it gently. Outside, the storm was growing worse. But inside the cave, something had changed. It wasn't warm, it wasn't safe. But now, it wasn't lonely anymore. Later that night, Rayleigh sat near the fire Logan had started with a small thermal spark. She stared at him, trying to understand him. She pointed to herself. "Rayleigh." Logan looked up. He nodded. "Rayleigh. Got it." He pointed to himself. "Logan." She repeated it. "Logan." A small smile appeared on his face. "That's close enough." Then, out of nowhere, Rayleigh asked softly, "Why, help?" Logan didn't answer right away. He looked at the fire for a while. Then he said quietly, "Because someone didn't help me once, and I remember how that felt." She didn't understand all the words, but she understood the feeling. She looked at him again. He looked tired, sad, but strong. To her, he was not just a man. He was a shield, a wall between her and the cold world outside. And even though the snake was still out there, she finally closed her eyes and slept. Morning came slowly. The wind outside had calmed, but thick clouds still covered the sky. A pale, cold light crept into the cave. Rayleigh opened her eyes slowly. Her body ached less. Her fingers didn't feel numb anymore. She looked around. Logan was not there. She sat up quickly, alarmed, but then saw movement just outside. Through the narrow cave entrance, she saw him kneeling near the snow, building something. She crawled closer and peeked out. Logan had created a small signal beacon, using scrap parts from his pack and some old tech pulled from a destroyed drone. He was soldering wires together, steam rising from his tools. He looked tired. His armor was cracked in several places. A scratch ran across his cheek. But his hands worked fast, focused. Suddenly, he looked up and smiled gently. "You're awake." Rayleigh said nothing. She stepped outside carefully and sat down beside him. For a long time, neither of them spoke. She watched him with curiosity. Every time he pushed two wires together, sparks danced between his gloves. She didn't know humans could work so well with machines. Making a distress ping, he finally explained. "Someone might pick it up, maybe someone who isn't trying to eat us." She didn't understand the words, but she understood the tone. Calm, strong, safe. Then he handed her a small device. It looked like a bracelet. "Here," he said. "Tracker. If we get separated, I can find you." Rayleigh hesitated, then slowly slipped it on. It lit up blue, just like her eyes. Hours passed. Logan had set up a temporary camp around the cave. Using energy cloth, he created a small tent roof over the entrance to block the snow. He melted ice to get water. He boiled dried ration soup. Rayleigh drank it all quickly. Then she looked at him with her big, glowing eyes and asked softly, "You soldier?" Logan shook his head. "No. Used to be an engineer, fixing ships. Now I just fix things that break. Sometimes people too." She tilted her head, thinking deeply. "You fix me?" Logan looked at her, surprised. Then he smiled. "Yeah, I guess I did." That night the girl began to speak more. Not full sentences, but soft words. She told him her ship crashed after pirates attacked. She had been traveling with scientists, her own people, fleeing war. Everyone else was gone. Rayleigh was the last one. "I not soldier," she whispered. "I just little spark." Logan raised an eyebrow. "Spark?" She pointed to her chest. "My name, Rayleigh, means small flame, but flame alone is weak." He was silent for a moment. Then he replied, "Even a small flame can survive the darkest cold." Her eyes lit up. She liked that. She crawled closer to the fire between them. She sat beside him without fear now, and slowly, she leaned her head on his arm. Logan didn't move. He just stared at the fire and whispered to himself, "What am I doing here?" But not far away. Danger still watched. In the dark beneath the snow snake had not given up. Its wounds had healed, its hunger had grown. It knew the human was a threat, but the girl was still warm, still alone if it waited long enough. And the snake had all the time in the world. It slithered silently through icy tunnels it had made under the surface, getting closer and closer. Inside the cave, Logan's scanner beeped. He looked down. Something big was moving beneath the snow and coming their way. He stood up fast, motioning to Rayleigh. "Stay here." But she stood too, her hands clenched. She wasn't going to hide this time. Logan sighed. "You're stubborn. You know that?" She smiled. He picked up his rifle and together, the human and the alien child stepped out into the cold again, ready to face whatever was coming. The wind picked up again. Snow blew in sharp waves, covering their footprints within seconds. Logan held Rayleigh's hand tightly as they moved, down the slope away from the cave. His scanner beeped again. Whatever was under the snow was still following. It was the snow snake. It was smarter this time. It didn't attack fast, it watched. It waited. "We need real shelter," Logan muttered. He remembered something. 2 days ago, before he found the girl, he had passed an old structure buried in the ice. It was from A forgotten mining mission, a small survival outpost. If it still had power, he adjusted his gear, pulled Rayleigh up on his back, and moved faster. After an hour of walking, the wind died down just enough for him to spot it. A metal roof poking out from the snow. Broken antennas. Ice-covered doors. Logan ran to it and kicked. Open the entrance. The inside was dark, freezing, and silent. Come on, he whispered, pressing buttons on the panel. Click. Whir. Old emergency lights blinked on. He smiled. Still alive? He carried Rayleigh inside and shut the door behind them. The storm faded into silence. Just old metal and soft humming machines. Now, the inside had a heater unit, a water processor, and, most importantly, a medical box. Logan placed Rayleigh on a metal bench. Her face was red. Her hands trembled. She hadn't said anything since they left the cave. He opened the med kit and pulled out a small scanner. He gently checked her vitals. Her temperature was low. Too low. Even with the jacket, he activated the thermal blanket pod, an old but working device. It looked like a sleeping bag, but once zipped, it slowly filled with controlled heat. He placed her inside and zipped it carefully. Rayleigh looked up at him with tired eyes. You stay? Logan knelt beside her and nodded. I'm not going anywhere. She blinked once, then closed her eyes. Hours passed. Logan checked the power core. It had enough charge for 2 days. He set up a small tripwire alarm at the entrance and reloaded his rifle. Then he sat near the blanket pod, keeping watch. His thoughts wandered. He had come to this frozen moon just to scavenge parts. Nothing more. He never expected to find a living child, or to risk his life again. Not after what happened to his own daughter. That memory still hurt. That burning fire, that broken ship. The cold silence when the medics shook their heads. He clenched his jaw. But this girl, this little alien spark, she pulled him out of that darkness. Maybe saving her was the only thing that made sense anymore. The next morning, Rayleigh woke up feeling warm for the first time in days. She looked around the room. Strange machines, old tech, and wires. But it all felt safe. Logan handed her a steaming cup. Warm broth, no flavor, sorry. She drank without a word. Then she said something new, something clear. You, my safe. He looked at her confused. What? She pointed to herself. I was lost. Then, to him. Now, I safe. Logan didn't reply. He just smiled. Just a little. And then, she did something he didn't expect. She reached into her pocket and pulled out a small, round stone. Purple, glowing. She placed it in his hand. My father gave, she said. Now, for you. He held it carefully. Are you sure? She nodded. It's a piece of your heart, isn't it? He said softly. She didn't know the words, but she understood the feeling. But peace never lasted long. The alarm rang. A soft clicking sound from the tripwire outside. Logan stood instantly, gun ready. He looked through the narrow window. The snow was quiet, too quiet. Then, thump. Something heavy hit the roof. Then again. Rayleigh ran to him, her eyes wide with fear. Logan pulled her behind him. Thump, thump, skrak. The roof above cracked slightly. A long white shape slithered across the skylight. The snake was back. Stronger, smarter. It had followed their scent. Rayleigh whispered, It won't stop. Logan nodded. Then I won't either. He looked at the heating pipes on the ceiling, then at the fuel cells near the wall, and an idea formed. The roof groaned again. A long crack opened above the shelter, letting in a wave of freezing wind. Logan aimed his rifle upward, eyes sharp and calm. Rayleigh stood behind him, clutching the thermal blanket around her shoulders. Her small hands trembled, not from cold, but from fear. The same fear that had haunted her since her ship crashed, since the snow snake first found her. But this time, she wasn't alone. This place won't hold, Logan muttered. We'll have to fight. Rayleigh stepped forward. You can't beat it. It chooses. It hunts the last. Logan turned to her. What do you mean, the last? She looked down. Her voice was soft, like a memory. My people told stories. Snow snakes only hunt those who survive, when others do not. One child, one survivor, the last flame. It follows, until the flame dies. Logan's eyes narrowed. That's why it didn't stop. Rayleigh nodded. It's not animal. It's curse. Logan clenched his jaw. He looked at the small, glowing stone she had given him earlier, the keepsake from her father. It pulsed with faint warmth. He suddenly understood. It marks you. That's how it tracks. She didn't answer, but her silence told him everything. He moved fast. Logan grabbed the fuel cells from the wall and cracked one open. Thick blue liquid leaked into a canister. He pulled wires from the ceiling and wrapped them around the barrel of his rifle. What are you doing? Rayleigh asked, giving it something hot enough to fear. He opened a floor panel and found a narrow access tunnel, the old outpost's air vent system. You stay here, he said. But she grabbed his arm. I come too. He shook his head. You're just a kid. I'm the flame, she said. It's me it wants. He looked at her for a long moment, then nodded. They crawled through the tunnel together, silent except for the hum of wires and wind echoing above. The snake had broken part of the roof. Its massive body now hung through the structure like a long white ribbon of death. Logan climbed out first, into the storage room beside the main door. The snake sensed movement. Its head snapped toward the sound. Logan fired. Boom! A blue-hot blast struck the snake in the face. It screamed, smoke rising from its frozen skin. The heat barrel worked. For the first time, the monster backed away, but it was only stunned. It curled around, crashing through the metal walls like thunder. Its tail whipped across the room, striking Logan hard. He hit the ground with a grunt, dazed. The snake turned toward him, its mouth opened, icy fangs dripping with mist. Then came a sound. Soft, high, clear, a song. Rayleigh stood in the center of the room, glowing stone held above her head. She was singing something in her own language, a melody full of sorrow and light. The snake paused. Her voice echoed through the shelter like wind through glass. The stone glowed brighter and brighter until it burned with brilliant white fire. Then she shouted, "Take it, curse, I end it." She threw the stone into the snake's open mouth. A second passed. Then the stone exploded in radiant light. The snake shrieked. Its body twisted, melted, then shattered into powder as the fire spread from within. Glowing ash floated in the air. The snow snake was gone, and with it, the curse. Rayleigh collapsed to her knees, breathing hard. Logan crawled to her, grabbed her shoulders, and pulled her into his arms. Hey, breathe. She looked up at him, tears frozen on her cheeks. I'm not the last anymore, she whispered. He smiled. No, you're not. They sat in silence for a long time. The shelter was damaged, but still standing. The beacon Logan had built now blinked a steady light, waiting to be found. He looked at her. You saved both of us. She looked down at her empty hands. My last gift is gone. No, he said. You gave it to the right place. She leaned her head on his chest. I'm still cold. He wrapped his arms around her. Then stay close. You're safe now. I'll keep the flame alive. The fire in the shelter had burned out. Ash from the snow snake still floated like glowing dust in the air, slowly fading. The storm outside had returned, howling across the icy plains. But inside, Logan and Rayleigh sat in silence, surrounded by cracked metal, broken walls, and a strange calmness. Logan's breath had grown shallow. Blood soaked his side, hidden beneath layers of armor torn by the snake's tail strike. He didn't tell Rayleigh how bad it was. He didn't want her to worry, but his body was growing colder not because of the weather, but because something inside was failing. I need to fix the beacon, Logan whispered. Someone might hear it. Rayleigh looked at him and frowned. You rest, you helped me, now I help you. Logan forced a smile. Kid, I'm a little big to carry. But she wasn't smiling back. She stood and moved to the side of the room where the beacon device was buried under collapsed shelves. Her small hands pulled pieces of scrap and tools. She had seen Logan work. She remembered what he did. And now, she copied him. It wasn't perfect. Her fingers shook. Her tools slipped. But the blue light on the beacon began to flicker again. Just once. Then again. Logan watched from the floor, chest rising slowly. You're learning fast, he whispered. You teach, she replied. An hour passed. The beacon now blinked a steady blue rhythm. But Logan wasn't moving anymore. His eyes were closed, his breathing weak. Rayleigh knelt beside him and placed her tiny hand on his cheek. No, she whispered. No sleep. You wake. You fix things. You fix me. Tears welled in her glowing eyes. Then she stood up. She remembered something. Before the crash, her ship had medical pods. Maybe. There was a pod nearby. They had ejected some equipment before impact. It could be buried in the snow. But finding it would mean going out alone. She looked at Logan. His skin was pale now. Her legs shook. But she picked up his scanner. She picked up his heavy coat. She picked up his hope. And she ran outside, into the blizzard. The cold hit her like knives. Snow lashed her face. Wind pulled at her legs. She stumbled more than once. But she kept walking. The scanner beeped weakly. It showed a blinking dot about half a mile to the west. She followed it. Every step was pain. Every breath burned. But she didn't stop. She whispered to herself again and again, like Logan once whispered to her, "Don't stop. Not dying today." Finally, through the storm, she saw it, a metallic pod, buried halfway in the snow. The emergency medical unit from her crashed ship. The door was frozen shut. She screamed. She hit it with her tiny fists. Then she remembered Logan's torch. She lit it, melted the ice, and the pod opened with a hiss. Inside was a working healing chamber, small, human-compatible, and humming. Her eyes lit up. She turned around and ran back. Back at the shelter, Logan hadn't moved. Rayleigh dragged the chamber on a sled made of metal panels. Her body nearly collapsed. But when she reached him, she whispered, "Please, don't go." She activated the pod, its arms extended, scanning Logan's condition. A voice spoke in a strange alien language, but Rayleigh understood just enough. One chance. She lifted him, inch by inch, into the pod. She wasn't strong enough. But she didn't stop. And finally, the pod clicked shut. Healing gas filled the chamber. She watched through the window. His heartbeat blinked, slow, then steadier. She sat down beside the pod and cried, silent tears falling on the floor. Hours passed, then a cough. Logan's voice, weak but clear. "That soup still warm?" Rayleigh's head snapped up. He was awake. Alive. She ran to him and hugged him tight, her little arms not even reaching all the way around his chest. "You left the fire burning," he whispered. She pulled back and said softly, "I'm your spark now." He smiled. Above them, the beacon pulsed. Louder now. A ship answered. Help was coming, but neither of them cared in that moment. They had already saved each other. A bright light broke through the storm. From above the clouds, a rescue shuttle descended, engines humming softly as it hovered over the damaged outpost. Its spotlight swept across the icy plain until it found the blinking blue signal of Logan's beacon. Strong, steady, alive. Inside the shelter, Logan stood on shaky legs wrapped in fresh bandages from the med pod. Rayleigh sat beside him, her tiny hand gripping his coat. She looked up as the sound grew louder. "Is that for us?" she asked. Logan smiled. "Looks like someone was finally listening." The shuttle doors opened with a hiss. 2 medics in thermal armor rushed in, weapons ready, but stopped when they saw Logan and the small alien girl sitting calmly by the fire. They blinked in disbelief. "You're the human who sent the signal?" one of them asked. Logan nodded. "She's the reason it worked. She kept me alive." The other medic knelt before Rayleigh and scanned her. "Her vitals are stable. She's strong." Rayleigh tilted her head. "I'm Flame," she said, softly. "Not gone yet." The medics looked at each other, confused. Logan translated. "She means she's still burning." They flew away from the snowfields in silence. Rayleigh sat by the window, her eyes wide as she watched the endless white disappear beneath them. For the first time in days, the sky was blue, clear, peaceful, but something inside her felt heavy. At the orbit station, Rayleigh was taken to the Alien Envoy Center. Her people had finally arrived. A tall woman with violet eyes and a long, ceremonial cloak greeted her. It was her aunt, the last living member of Rayleigh's family line. "My little spark," the woman whispered. "We thought you were gone." Rayleigh didn't rush into her arms. She turned back, searching the hallway. Logan stood far away, leaning against the wall, watching. She ran to him. The alien envoy looked surprised. "Who is this?" Rayleigh pointed to Logan. "My safe," she said. "He didn't let me go out. He stayed." Logan chuckled softly. "I just fixed what was broken." But the envoy bowed deeply. "You did more than that, human. You carried her flame through death. That is sacred to us." Logan raised an eyebrow. "Is that your way of saying thank you?" She nodded. "And more. By our law, when one carries the flame, they become part of the fire." He frowned. "What does that mean?" Rayleigh stepped forward, took his hand and whispered, "You're my family now." Logan stood frozen for a moment. No one had said that to him. Not since he lost his daughter. He knelt, to her level, brushed a bit of frost from her cheek and said quietly, "Then I'll stay as long as you need." She nodded. "No, you stay. Forever." Weeks passed. Rayleigh recovered quickly. She ate well, smiled more, and even laughed, softly, like the crackle of a warm fire. Logan was given quarters in the alien habitat. At first, the other aliens were unsure of him. A human living among them? It had never been done before. But Rayleigh held his hand wherever they went. She told everyone, "He saved me." He fought the snow. And slowly, the others began to smile at him too. One night, as stars glittered above their dome-shaped skyport, Rayleigh sat beside Logan on a high balcony. She looked up and whispered, "Do you think the snow snake still watches?" Logan shook his head. "No, you burned brighter than it could handle." She smiled, then leaned her head on his arm. "I was lost," she said softly. "Now, I'm home." He looked down at her and replied, "Me too, kid. Me too."